Welcome to short r/mid-sized long stories. Your host might appear to be AI, but it only uses artificial voices while its intelligence remains questionable. This story was posted on r/am I the arsehole by the user mbool8809, but it has also made it to r/all. Am I the arsehole for telling my father-in-law he won't ever be living with us? Prior to my wife and I trying for our first, we spoke with both sets of parents and said, would they have any interest in helping with watching their grandkids until preschool starts? Both were over the moon excited, all four fully retired, and they all said, absolutely. The plan was to trade off weeks so they know their schedule for booking their own appointments, etc. Wife gets pregnant and, around 10 weeks post-birth, she's getting ready to transition back to work, and her parents said they've changed their minds and decided to travel more and want to enjoy their elder years. Okay. My parents did their absolute best to pick up in-laws slack, but daily childcare was too much with my wife and I working full-time, so we ended up with my parents watching on Mondays and Wednesdays, paying for childcare on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my wife and I working half-days on Fridays to handle that. With my parents taking the Friday whenever we needed them to. They're incredible. It was very frustrating to have in-laws say one thing and do the opposite. In 6 years, they've never once watched any of our kids for a single day. So my wife and I bought a house about a week ago. They're over checking it out as we're unboxing, and my father-in-law sees this house has a first-floor master with full bath. He turns to mother-in-law and says, "Oh, thank God, we won't have to do stairs." I said, "Come again?" Mother-in-law says of my wife and her 2 siblings, "We are doing by far the best, and it would make the most sense for them to live with us, as they're in their 70s and a house is becoming too much for them already." I audibly laughed hard and loud and said, "Hell would freeze before you live here," which was met by shock from both of them. I explained that when we needed their help, they turned their backs, so we were simply doing the same. My wife agreed. She expressed how expensive and how difficult it was with zero help from one side of our village. That was their call, but we were now returning the favor. They're incredibly upset and hurt over this revelation. Were we the asses for this stance? I don't think so at all, but if the votes are a bloodbath, I'll reconsider as we have the space.
One of the top comments says, "Not the arse." The sheer audacity of not just assuming they could move in, but they get the main bedroom with a full bath. If they can't or don't want to deal with a full house, they can buy a condo or something. There are a lot of 55+ communities popping up everywhere. To which Tiz Fury and Lizzie San reply, they spent their retirement funds traveling and enjoying their elder years. And this is what I thought. They spent their retirement savings on travel, thinking they could crash with their grown kids when the time came. They should have met with a financial planner to see how much they could really afford in fun stuff with a sufficient amount sweet aside for their old infirm age. Especially if they don't see family as helping each other. Plus, if this was their plan, they should have voiced it all along, when their reality could have been pointed out to them. It's a big sacrifice to have elderly parents living with you, especially as they get sick and become medically needy. Not everyone can handle that stress. Another top comment says, "Not the arse." All these folks saying you should not laugh are missing the part where they walked in your house, talked between themselves about the appropriateness of your master bedroom for themselves without ever discussing it with you or your spouse. The audacity. Anytime they try to bring it up again, you just need to say, "The audacity you two have trying to claim a room in a home you didn't pay 1 cent toward and didn't even have a conversation with us about before we purchased it. The freaking audacity of you two. You both did good calling out these entitled goobers." To which embarrassed Gold 793 replies, "Childcare is expensive, sometimes an actual mortgage payment, and your parents minding your child perhaps saved you money that you could then put into your home. It is audacious of your wife's parents to want to move into a home that they could have helped make possible sooner." The laugh was deserved.
If you enjoy the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon for notifications. Thank you. Now let's get back to our stories.
The next story was posted in r/am I the arsehole by the user bows_and_ribbons, but it has made it to r/popular as well. Am I the arsehole if I break up with my boyfriend after he told my mom I'm pregnant? Hi, all. This is my first post and I really need some outside perspective. I, a 22 female, have been with my boyfriend, 21 male, for a year. We met through work, and until recently I thought he was the man I wanted to marry. This past year has been very hard. Recently, I was admitted to the hospital due to a complication and infection from a medical pregnancy termination. My boyfriend was fully on board with the termination, as we are not ready for a child. When I was admitted, I asked if my emergency contact, my mom, would be notified and was told no. My family is extremely religious and against termination, and since I was recently laid off, I currently depend on them and didn't want them to find out. I asked my boyfriend to message my parents with general information about my hospital admission. We clearly discussed what he could say, and the one rule was not to mention pregnancy or its termination. The next morning, I woke up for a scan and surgery and found my mom in the hospital waiting room. After surgery, I found out my boyfriend had told her I was pregnant. His reasoning was that he was worried about me and that my mom asked what medication I'd taken. Now I'm considering breaking up with him. He broke a clear boundary during one of the most vulnerable moments of my life, while I was unconscious and unable to stand up for myself. I feel like I can't trust him to respect my boundaries or keep my confidence when it matters most. Am I the arse if I break up with him when he was trying to help but did so by telling my secret? Edit. Okay, so this is getting a lot of attention and I want to clarify some frequently asked questions. When I asked my boyfriend to message my parents, it was because they asked me to tell them when I am out overnight and I had no service being hooked up to and for. They can see my location and telling them why I'm at a hospital rather than them guessing is definitely better. I did not expect my boyfriend to lie and he told everyone true symptoms and my condition. We only didn't say the true reason for why I was admitted, pregnancy and its termination. The reason for being there given to family, which the nurses helped confirm would work, was to say the infection was caused by remaining tissue from my last irregular period. So he knew what to say. 2. Yes, my parents are very religious. I do not know their full reactions as after hearing about my pregnancy my mom left the hospital and has not contacted me since. This is either great news or bad, just going to have to wait and see. 3. My partner is extremely supportive and has been throughout the rest of our relationship. There is no thought in my mind or my friends, as I have of course reached out, that this was malicious. It was dumb and broke my trust, not evil. 4. Of course I wouldn't have had any issue if anything was life-threatening. Nothing was. It was a minor procedure and there was almost no risk. The top comment says, there was no reason he needed to tell your mom that. She's not a doctor, so it doesn't matter what medicine you took. He could have just said you had an infection that got worse. Maybe he panicked, but I also would have trouble trusting him after such a big betrayal. To which Oinjiboingi7 replied, I also feel like if it was just a nervous reaction, that's more of a reason to end it. Is he just gonna spill all of OP's secrets every time he gets put on the spot? The next post comes from r/am I the arsehole and was posted by the user impossible_staff92. Am I the arsehole for changing my niece's stripper name when I got custody? I think it will become obvious that my sister and I have taken very different paths in life. I love her very much, but she is not well. I have had custody of my niece since she was 6 months old. My sister is going to jail for at least the next 7 years. She is ineligible for parole for that long. So that's a minimum. My niece's name is a perfect example of my sister's thought process. Honest to God, she named her Synnammin, pronounced cinnamon. I have had my sister's parental rights severed. My parents and her fought me on it. Don't care. My parents have never contributed to her upbringing. But they have given lots of unwanted advice. I adopted my daughter and changed her name to Simone. My parents think I'm being cruel to my sister. What my sister thinks is not allowed here. The filters told me that particular obscenity wasn't part of posts here. It starts with a C, try it yourself if you don't believe me. So I feel completely justified in changing her name. I do not think I'm wrong. I am not looking for validation. I want to know if I'm missing something that my parents and sister can't communicate coherently. One of the top comments says, I completely misunderstood the title and thought OP had just found a better stripper name for their niece. OMG.
If you enjoy the video, please like the video, Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon for notifications. Thank you.